Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So now we're on lesson 14. So our last lesson was our first lesson on the sukoon. How to join a letter to the sukoon. And now this is our second lesson, continue the sukoon. Okay, so last lesson we joined the fatha letter. So you look at the top over here. Last lesson we joined the fatha letter to the waw sukoon, isn't it? So before it was aw, bow, taw, thaw, like that. So because our first letter was an a sound, then joined to the waw sukoon, so it became an aw. But this time our first letter has a damma, a pesh. So the damma letter makes an u sound, isn't it? Yes, it's not an a anymore because of the damma. Our first letter is an u, and then after a pesh letter, when you have a waw sakin, what it does is stretches the u sound. So it sounds like this. Ooh. So that's what it does. And this is our second maddul asli rule. Remember our first maddul asli was when you have a fatha letter and after it is an alif, and then it stretches it, so it becomes ba, ta, tha, etc. So that was our first maddul asli. Now this is our second maddul asli, and you should write this down. So I'll put in the caption of the video what to write down, so you can have this maddul asli rule written down so you can remember it. So we've done two maddul asli rules so far. So the way you'll say this is oo, boo, tu, thu. So you're stretching all of them. Ju, hu. Make sure you pronounce the ha. Hu, du, dhu. And make sure you pronounce the letter properly as well. It's not a zu. It's dhu, ru, zu, su, shu. Now make sure you pronounce the swad. Su. So it's slightly different to the scene. So the scene is su, and this one is shu. No, sorry. This one is su. So the scene is very light and the swad is very heavy. And like this one as well is very heavy, because these are full mouth letters, aren't they? Dhu, tu, dhu. And on this one, try to pronounce the ayn. Ru, ru, fu. And here, try to pronounce the qaf. Qu. So it's not ku, it's qu. And here's the kaf. Ku, lu, mu, nu. This one is wu. So remember, you're stretching all of them. It's a ha to the waw. Hu. It's a hamza with a waw. Oo. Now it's a ya with a waw. You. Okay, so that's very easy. But you just have to remember how to read them. So the way to figure it out is you say the first letter, which is u, and then you figure out which sound the sukoon letter has. This is a worse sound, isn't it? So we'll stretch it. Ooh. Okay, so now let's move on to the exercise. So same thing. Now they're going to make you practice what we've done over here inside these boxes over here. So let's see where they are. Okay, so in the first box, it's the first two, isn't it? See, the first letter has a damma, followed, and then it's a waw sukoon. So this is a madd asli over here. So you stretch it. Ooh. And here as well. Look at the second box. Ba will be stretched by the waw sukoon because the ba has a damma. Boo. Now in this one, both these will be stretched. Ta, waw sukoon. So the waw sukoon will stretch the ta. Then the ra, and after it is a waw sukoon, so the ra will be stretched. In this box, it's the middle one. Jim has a damma, and they'll be stretched by waw sukoon. Yeah. So you have to spot them as you're going along, and whenever you spot them, you have to stretch it. Let's do the first line together. So the first two letters are oo. Now here, this is a one-line letter with two dots on top, which is a ta, and then it has a kasra over here. This is ti. Ooh, ti. Then a ya with a fatha. Ya. Ooh, tiya. Yes, see how I stretch the maddul asli. The first two letters. Ooh, tiya. Then the ba will join to the waw sukoon, so you stretch. Boo. And nothing else should be stretched, only the maddul asli. Then a ra with a kasra, ri. Buri. Ka with a fatha. ka. Burika. See, only stretch the mad al-asli, don't stretch the ri or the ka. Burika. Now here both of them will be stretched. There's two mad al-aslis here. So this first one is ta with a waw, tu, and so ra with a waw, ru, tu, then na, tu, na, and it's a waw, wu. And the jim will be stretched by the waw sukoon, ju, wuju, then the ha with a double damma, hun, wujuhun. There's a ha over here, which will be stretched by waw sukoon, hu, then a ra with a double damma, run, hurun. And that's the first line done. So now pause the video and practice this line at least 3 times minimum. If you can do more, then even better. And when you're ready, move on to the next line. Okay, so the mad al-asli is on the first 2 letters, the dal and the waw, they will stretch. Do, this is lam with a fatha, la, do la, ta, double fatha, tan, do la tan. First letter here is a la, then it's a dhal, stretched by waw sukoon. Dhu, ladhu. This is za, stretched by waw sukoon. Zu, ron, zuron. So making sure you only stretch the mad al-asli. Okay, now here the first letter is one line with 2 dots at the bottom. There's only one letter in the whole qaida which has 2 dots at the bottom. So that's a ya with a fatha. Then over here, if you look where my arrow is, that's a sin. Yeah? One has pointy bits. 1, 2. And then it joins to waw sukoon. And the sin has a damma, and the waw sukoon has a sukoon. So that will stretch, isn't it? Su, yasu. Then some mim, which will stretch by waw sukoon. Mu, yasu, mu. Then nun fatha, na. So very short. Yasumuna. So making a ya and then na very short. Yasumuna. Okay, next line. So sad, which will join to the waw sukoon. Su, then a ra with a kasra. Ri. Suri. And that line is done. Now pause the video and practice this line at least 3 times. Okay, next line. Should be easy. First letter, waw fatha, wa. Ta, stretched by waw sukoon. Tu, watu, ri. Waturi. First letter, a. Then the ayn, stretched by waw sukoon. Ru, a'u, dhu. A'udhu. Another quick point is whenever you're reading a letter, you should always check what the next letter is as well, so you can see if it should join or not. So let's say I read ta, and then I just look at this letter, just this one, yeah. So I read fu, tafu, and then I look to the next one. Then I realize, oh no, it's a waw sukoon. Then I have to go all the way back, or I'll get confused. How do I read this waw sukoon by itself? Yeah, and then I won't be able to read it. So whenever you read a letter, you should always look at what the next letter is. So for example, I read ta, and I can see that the fa has a damma, so they're not going to join. So that's fine. So I read ta. Now my next letter. Now I see it's a fa with a damma. I should always check, okay, what's the next letter? And I check, and I see that it's a waw sukoon. So then because I've checked, now I know that I need to join them. So I say fu, tafu. So you should always check what the next letter is before reading that letter. Ru, tafuru. Ya, qaf will join to the waw. Qu, make sure it's pronounced the qa properly. Yaqu, salam stretched by waw sukoon. Lu, yaqulu, na. Make sure you stretch both of them the same amount, the qu and the lu. Yaquluna. Okay, first letter is a 1 line with 2 dots on top. That's ta. This letter over here is a kaf, which will be stretched by waw sukoon. Ku, taku, nu, takunu. And that line is done. Now pause the video and practice this line at least 3 times. Okay, next line. Now here, is a meme will join to the waw, but this time the first letter has a fatha. Remember what we done in the last page. So you need to remember how to read these. When the fatha letter joins to the waw sukoon, so remember we said you look at the first letter, which is a ma, and then join it to a w sound. So it becomes maw. Maw. Then the qaf will join to the waw sukoon, qu, mawqu. Then the fa will join to the waw sukoon, fu, mawqufu. The nun has a fatha, na, mawqufuna. Yeah, mawqufuna. So make sure you stretch the qu and the fu the same amount. Next one. Then this is nun stretched by waw sukoon, nu, ha with a double damma, hun. Make sure you pronounce the ha correctly. Nuhun. Then this is sad and then alif. Saw. So make sure you read it full mouth. Don't read it as sa. It's saw. Then a ba with a kasra, b. Saw b. So this is a mad al-asli, so you have to stretch it. Then it's another mad al-asli. The hamza will be stretched by waw sukoon. U. Saw bi u na. Short. Sabi'una. So you're only stretching two things here, the saw and the u, nothing else. Next letter is sin alif, mad al-asli. Sa. Then the ha will be stretched by waw sukoon. Hu. Sahuna. Sahuna. And that line is done as well. So now pause the video and practice this line minimum 3 times. And the last line now. So the ya will be stretched by waw sukoon, you, fa will be stretched by waw sukoon, fu, you, fu, nun with the fatha, na, you, fu, na. Okay, so it's stretching the you and the fu. Make sure you stretch them the same amount. One should be longer than the other, and the na should be very quick. You, fu, na. Okay, next one. So the qaf, damma, qu. Then the lam will be stretched by waw sukoon, lu, qulu. Then the ba has a double damma, bun, qulubun, qulubun. The shin has a damma, shu. Then the ha will be stretched by waw sukoon, hu, shuhu. Dal has a double damma, dun, shuhudun. Okay, so make sure you stretch the hu and don't stretch anything else. Shuhudun. First letter, qaf, damma, qu. Then the ayn will stretch by waw sukoon, ru, qu'udun, qu'udun. And the last box now. So this is a tha with a damma, 3 dots, thu. Then a ba, see 1 line with a dot at the bottom, will be stretched by waw sukoon, bu, thubu. Then a ra has a double fatha, run, thuburan. And that's that, done. So we've completed lesson 14. So now I want you to keep on going over this, make sure this lesson is perfect, and also revise lesson 13 as well. Go over lesson 13, read a few boxes from there, so you can to make sure that you haven't forgotten it, because this is very important.